Tony Stewart has never been one to shy away from sharing what's on his mind. Throughout his career, he never hesitated to call out other drivers and the sanctioning body whenever necessary. That open, honest approach and never sugarcoating what he thought is endearing to many of his fans. This past weekend, there's a good chance many of those fans didn't like how open and honest the three-time Cup Series champion was during the Fox broadcast from Atlanta when he talked about a longtime NASCAR tradition many, including Dale Earnhardt Jr., have missed, and how it's not going to return because saving dollars is more important than entertaining the fans. The COVID pandemic changed the world forever. NASCAR wasn't immune from those changes. In 2020, the schedule looked dramatically different with doubleheaders at multiple venues like Darlington, Charlotte, Pocono, and Dover. Another big change was no practice and qualifying. That was an understandable move as NASCAR wanted to limit the exposure of everyone in the garage, and eliminating both practice and qualifying sessions did just that. For the 2020 and 21 seasons, NASCAR effectively did away with practice and qualifying. Teams just showed up and raced as part of COVID-19 protocols for most races. That changed last year when NASCAR reintroduced practice but did so on a much more limited basis that included splitting the teams into two groups, each group getting a 15 or 20-minute practice session depending on whether it was an oval or a road course. Joe Gibbs racing driver Christopher Bell, who had no practice in his first 2 years racing Cup, summed up his thoughts about the expanded practice before the Daytona 500.
It's crazy to think about. This is my third year in Cup, but my first year with full practice and qualifying. So it's going to be different, but it's going to be different for everybody. And, you know, we got to use the word practice loosely because it's not a typical practice session where you're able to go out, make a run, come back into the garage, make an educated decision on what changes you're going to make. It's theoretically a hot lap session.
Those hot lap sessions have continued into 2023, and fans, including Dale Earnhardt Jr., have started to become more outspoken on the topic, wondering if it will ever return to the good old days when fans could plan an entire weekend around the racetrack because they would get to watch multiple practices and qualifying on Friday and Saturday before the big race on Sunday. Jr. recently responded to a tweet by Fox's Bob Pockrass addressing the question of the old practice qualifying schedule and how he misses those days. "I miss broadcasting practices and trying to learn who was quick and who was looking for speed," Earnhardt wrote. "Those storylines developing throughout the Friday-Saturday activity were an enjoyable part of my job." Brad Keselowski even chimed in on the subject, siding with Earnhardt, including the hashtag Team Practice. Today, as many fans pointed out, those storylines are often limited to reporting on what happened in the previous week's race or special happenings like Denny Hamlin opening his mouth on a podcast or Chase Elliott breaking a leg. There's no time for storylines to develop during those short practice sessions or no sessions, as is the case on super speedways like Daytona, Talladega, and now Atlanta, or a total of 6 races a year. That was a topic of conversation on this past weekend's race broadcast from Atlanta, when Mike Joy put Tony Stewart on the hot seat about practice.
So we asked NASCAR about no practice at Daytona, Talladega, and here at Atlanta, the 3 super speedways, and they said it was at the request of the team owners. So, team owner, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's just literally the cost to operate these race teams is so high. Being able to take that practice day out saves the teams a lot of money. And it's more than just the race cars. It's hotels, it's rental cars. All those things add up during the season. So these guys know what to do. They know when they go to Talladega and Daytona what they've got to do in the car.
Did you hear that? That was Stewart bluntly admitting, without any hesitation, it's all about the money. It's not about the fans. If the owners wanted, they could instruct NASCAR to revert to the previous format of practice sessions so fans would get a full weekend experience as they did for years before the pandemic. By the sounds of it, it's not going to return to that anytime soon. The only hope is with the new television contract, which will start in 2025. The teams will receive a substantially larger piece of the pie from the revenue, and hopefully, as a result, they will hear what many fans have been saying for the last couple of years. reconsider the current practice situation, and not be so hell-bent on implementing cost-cutting measures that negatively affect the fan experience.